It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
To an organization out of Pennsylvania. It's the Citizens Alliance of Pennsylvania, and they are doing a lot of work very similar to what we're trying to do here at Conduit News, and which is, spread the word, limited government, and hold our local government officials accountable. Here is Mr. Leo Knepper. He is the Chief Executive Officer for Citizens Alliance of Pennsylvania. Leo, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. So just kind of give us a rundown. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about the Citizens Alliance of Pennsylvania.
Well, I have been an activist, a member of the activist community in Pennsylvania, I guess going back to 2005. And the Citizens Alliance of Pennsylvania actually was started in 2009. To give you a little bit, I guess, in the way of background, Pennsylvania has a history of kind of bipartisan back-scratching and corruption. And what has been, kind of found over time was that without an organization providing resistance on the, the limited government side of the spectrum, Pennsylvania's Republican Party and Pennsylvania government has really trended towards getting bigger and more costly. We kind of have an odd, or at least it separates us from a lot of our other neighboring states in that the Pennsylvania Republican Party actually gets a significant amount of money from labor unions and also from the trial lawyers. And part of that is the legacy of one of our most famous national senators, Arlen Specter, and part of it is just kind of a result of how Pennsylvania's population is distributed.
Wow.
So there's been a lot of bad policy on a bipartisan basis. We had in 2001 a Republican governor lobby for and sign an increase to the public sector pension package for teachers, state employees, lawmakers, and that was actually right before the .com bubble burst.
Wow.
And there has been really no effort to kind of rein in those expenses, and as a result, we find ourselves with roughly $100 billion in unfunded liabilities in just our pension system.
Wow.
So we have a lot of fiscal problems. We are consistently ranked one of the least friendly places to do business for a variety of reasons, for tax reasons, for labor regulations, and also because there are some unique things that Pennsylvania's environmental protection departments can do to stymie progress and kind of change their requirements, regulatory requirements midstream in projects. So that really it's hampered Pennsylvania's growth. So what our organization was founded to do was really, politicians are a lot like electricity. They'll follow that path of least resistance, and because there hasn't really been an organized effort to hem them in on the side of decreasing the size of government, the size of government hasn't decreased. So what our organization was founded to do was really to provide that resistance, and we do that in two ways. We do it through we have a 501c4, so we do some direct lobbying. We do a lot of what I guess would be considered in Pennsylvania indirect lobbying, where we're educating the public about what their lawmakers are doing in the Capitol. And then we also have a state-registered political action committee, which allows us to participate in elections. And really, if you want to get politicians' attention, support a primary challenger against
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, let me ask you this. We're talking with Leo Knepper, the CEO for Citizens Alliance for Pennsylvania. And we're highlighting, the reason we're doing this, folks, is we're highlighting, what we're going through down here at Arkansas. There are other states going through similar things. There are organizations trying to fight that. Now, I'm interested, Leo, do you guys ever get any pushback for being involved in the political process the way you are? Because you just said you've got a 501c3, you've got a 501c4, you've got a way to participate in elections. So does that make anybody in Pennsylvania angry because your goal is to limit government, and the fact that you're legally using the correct entities to try to affect the most change? Do you guys get a lot of criticism for that?
Well, just a slight correction. We don't have a 501c3. We just operate a C4 and a political action committee.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, to your question, we get a lot of pushback. So we do a lot of things very differently. For example, Pennsylvania collects union dues and union political money from state employees via the payroll system and taxpayer resources. We had a bunch of Republicans kind of vote against ending that practice last year, and what we did was we actually put together a least wanted poster and mailed it out to basically every Republican donor in the state to let them know how their money was being spent in supporting these kind of people. And so, yeah, we definitely get pushback. It's kind of funny because I don't actually get phone calls from Republican establishment type people in Pennsylvania with them being angry at me. What ends up happening is they'll actually call up our donors and complain to our donors to try and get, to put pressure on them. What's interesting is that a lot of our donors used to be donors to the Republican Party and, its various tendrils. But after they've kind of learned how ineffective and counterproductive that was, they've actually switched over to donating to us. So, they will try to put pressure on our donors. We've never actually, knock on wood, run into any issues where we've had kind of abusive authority directed towards us. I actually, at one point, we were supporting a primary challenger against our Speaker of the House, a Republican, and he sent a handwritten 3-page letter over to our office telling me what a jerk I was and how much I didn't understand Pennsylvania's politics. Shortly thereafter, he retired because he didn't actually want to have to work to win a race.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's how you know you're being effective. So, Leo, tell us about the Iron Triangle. What is that?
So the Iron Triangle is a helpful illustration for us to try and educate voters. It's big government special interests, lobbyists, and career politicians, and those are really the three forces that work together to stymie not only government reform, but also to try and prevent reforms that are favorable to taxpayers. And those are they all kind of work in concert. So you have your big government special interests, and that's everything from organized labor to big business who benefits from increasing the cost of their competitors entering the market through increased regulation. Big business, one of the dirty secrets is that larger companies actually like regulation because it prevents entry into market.
Yes.
It raises competition costs, so it keeps new people from opening up businesses and becoming competitors. So big business doesn't dislike regulation. It actually creates kind of a corporatist climate.
Yeah, they want to use the government to, well, what I say is Johnny sweep the legs out from under the competition. They want to take a cheap shot at the little guy that's not using the government to, guarantee, and in some cases in Arkansas, guarantee a taxpayer flow of money to their business.
Oh, absolutely, and we have that in Pennsylvania as well, through various taxpayer subsidies. They're actually forcing, you're forcing one competitor to subsidize another just because they have more access to the levers of power, and the people who are writing the budgets. So we've found ourselves kind of on the opposite side of the table. I guess in 2013, our Republican governor was advocating heavily to increase Pennsylvania's tax per gallon on gasoline.
Huh. We have that down here too with our Republican governor. What a coincidence.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, to fund roads and bridges, and we actually are at this point either the highest or the second highest tax per gallon on gasoline as a result of that. But anyway, we were one of the only organizations who were out there, and really the only organization who is out there really kind of banging the drum about how bad this policy was. And so we found ourselves, we had the Chamber of Commerce and various manufacturing associations actually advocating for this higher tax. So we found ourselves numerous times on the opposite side of the table from various, what generally the public would think of as, organizations who would support conservative policy. They support lower taxes. They don't, for themselves, they don't necessarily support lower taxes for other people.
Yeah, for everybody. Yeah.
Right, for everybody. So, and then we also have a very strong public sector, government employee unions in Pennsylvania. The largest single contributor to political campaigns in Pennsylvania is the teachers union, followed by AFSCME, the government employees union. So we have a lot of money flowing from the government sector to politicians in order to basically have a seat on both sides of the negotiating table when it comes to taxes and increasing pay and things like that. And against actually decreasing the number of employees the government needs, quote unquote needs.
Yeah.
So, and then we have our kind of long-term lobbyists. We had an interesting thing happen a couple of years ago where one of the more famous or infamous lobbyists in the Capitol's son was actually running for a House seat. And we had the temerity to expose kind of the nonsense that he had, in fact, the son had lobbied for, and he lost his election kind of resoundingly. It was a three-way race or a four-way race, and he came in third despite having outspent a lot of the other people. And again, rather than criticizing us directly or being an adult about it and just accepting a loss, he went and sent a letter to our donors. He was completely besides himself that someone would be willing to point out the fact that his son had lobbied for much larger government.
Yeah.
So really it's an issue of, for us, from our perspective, it's really an issue of increasing transparency, because we have a lot of politicians in the Republican Party who are very happy to run on a limited government platform. They are, generally speaking, pro-life and pro-gun, but you don't want to leave them in the room with your good silverware because they'll rob you blind.
Wow. That's probably the best phrase of the interview right there. Yeah, it's easy. Those are the low-hanging fruit issues, and those are some of my biggest issues. But I mean, like here in Arkansas, everybody agrees on that for the most part. So, but it's like, what is your tax policy? What do you, how do you believe, the regulatory structure should look like, if any at all? And that's really when you get into the weeds and stuff. We're talking with Leo Knepper, the CEO, Citizens Alliance for Pennsylvania. The website is empowerpa.org, so check it out. That's empowerpa.org. Leo, I got one more question for you. So, folks down here in Arkansas, we probably would have lost a bet in terms of, especially if we were listening to the media coverage, that Donald Trump was going to win Pennsylvania. He did win Pennsylvania, thankfully. We do not have a Hillary Clinton presidency. So I'm just curious, what was your feeling before the election about those chances, and what was your feeling on election night when Pennsylvania went red?
So, excuse me. So I was actually really skeptical that Donald Trump would carry Pennsylvania up until probably about 3 weeks out. What I had started to notice, as you can imagine, I do quite a bit of driving in the state, and what I had imagined is, what I noticed was there were a lot of Donald Trump signs in people's yards who I had never seen a political sign for in their yards before. So, I mean, generally speaking, yard signs are a bad gauge of political, intent, but the sheer number of signs that I saw in previously apathetic homes was definitely something that it piqued my interest. And actually, as we were going through the night on election night, and as the returns were coming in, basically at 11 o'clock, I knew that Donald Trump was going to be president. I was looking at the returns as they were coming in Pennsylvania, and there were 2 counties, I believe, around 11 o'clock at night whose returns still hadn't been reported. And they were 2 counties that I knew very well and knew for a fact, I mean, at this point, Donald Trump had something like a 30,000 vote advantage in Pennsylvania. And the television pundits were breathlessly trying to figure out whether or not Hillary would be able to pick up enough votes in the remaining counties to turn it. And I knew for a fact, just looking at it, that there was no way that would happen. The 2 counties that were out were probably 2 of the most conservative, the reddest counties in the state. So, I was able to actually go to bed much earlier than everyone else because I knew what was going to happen.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. I really admire the work you guys are trying to do, and I'd love to have you back on again sometime. It's always good to make a friend in another state fighting a similar battle. So, Leo Knepper, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Folks, again, the website, empowerpa.org. Check them out. And we're going to be talking with people who represent organizations in different states. We're going to start doing this because we wanted to let you guys know here in Arkansas that while we have a big government that doesn't seem to want to grow, you heard he's having similar problems with politicians that campaign conservatively, but they don't govern conservatively. This is a problem in D.C. and all across the country, and we're going to win. We're going to win, but we just got to keep at it. We got to take a break. Back in just a moment.